Hello, everybody. Adam Parks here with another episode of Receivables Roundtable. Today, I am here with my friend Neeraj, who is the CEO of KnovaOne. How you doing today, Neeraj?
I'm doing well. How are you, Adam?
Another day in paradise. I know you're probably feeling the same way. It's weird that we have to travel across the country to run into each other, but we only live, 30, 40 minutes away from each other.
Yeah, that's the thing with the South Korea. Things are near, but yet they're far.
Yeah, true statement. For anybody who's watching today that might not be familiar with you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to the seat that you're in today?
Sure. So I actually have a background in engineering, and the photo on the back is my PhD in material science. But on one fateful day, good or bad, I was in Richmond, Virginia, dropped my resume at a Capital One job fair. And within 30 days, actually, I was a collections analyst in Capital One. And I was just happy to be having a job that was not in academia.
Sure.
Not that I didn't like it. So I worked as a collections analyst in Capital One, jumped around within Capital One, managing agencies, managing operations, and ended up in legal collections in 2006. I worked with several of the law firms in the industry that we work with currently. And after working for Capital One, I joined NCO, which is at that time, one of the largest network, plus agency. And from there, I went to mortgage industry for a year. But after working for a while, I decided, it was time for me to do something of my own, because even in my job, I was doing the sort of consulting work for the law firms. Mm-hmm. I was helping them solve their problems, whether they were process oriented or technology oriented. And at some point I said, hey, why don't I do this of my own? And that was it. And that's when the initial form of KnovaOne was born.
Okay. And so, tell us a little about KnovaOne and what you guys do there.
So KnovaOne, when we started, it was simply a consulting. I was working with several law firms, helping them build their business intelligence dashboards, helping them with reporting, looking into their processes, what was causing their backlog and why they were not reaching their SLAs. So as part of that discussion with a couple of law firms, the question came up with hey, can you do more than just consult us? Can you actually provide us the solutions? And I was like, sure. And part of those discussions led me to set up an outsourcing company, an IT company, and as well as a compliance arm, right? So we have different segments that we provide, or research services we provide through KnovaOne. But one of the basic tenet of my starting KnovaOne was to make the law firm's life easier, right? Mm-hmm. They already have tons of headaches. We are in an industry which is heavily watched by several watchdogs, right? So the last thing they need is a small process hiccup that creates more problems for them. So the idea behind KnovaOne was, how can I help my clients get better, get more efficient, and get more compliant?
Makes sense. Well, and speaking of kind of your sales cycle, one of the interesting conversations that you and I have talked about over dinner in West Palm was really the consultative sales approach. And I think it's one of those things that makes guys like you and I different from your average salesperson. Your average salesperson sees a target, or they had a lead, as they may call it. And they're going to start hounding that person, specifically for their product. You need to buy my product. Here's why you need to buy my product. Here's the benefits of my product, my product, my product, my product. And not always the easiest way to sell in this particular space. And so you and I have talked about that consultative approach to selling. And I know it's something that's made you successful, me as well. Tell me a little bit about, what brought you to that conclusion that selling through, actually, let's take one step back and let's say, what is consultative sales? Let's talk a little bit about how you approach the sales cycle.
Sure. So if there were ever Razzies for sales, I would probably win every year. I don't consider myself a salesperson. I suck at selling, right? The main reason for me when I started all this was, hey, how can I help you, right? Mm-hmm. As I was mentioning just before that, everybody has pain points. Even I have pain points, and I'm not an expert on everything. So when I approach my clients, it's always about what is the one thing that I can do for you that will make your life better, and then so on. And normally these things lead into a project. They lead into a small project. Hey, can you help us clean up, 200 files here? Can you help us clean up 300 files there? I just got a portfolio from another law firm, another client. Can you help me clean them up? I'm just giving you a very, small example. But normally what happens is that when we deliver on that project, then they can see our value. And
Mhm.
one of the things we do is do not force ourselves on any of our clients. We let them come with their problems, we provide them solutions and help them implement them. If it works, which 99% time it does, then they are happy. They're able to ask us to do more and grow with us. So our sales pitch has never been about, hey, I have a product that will solve all your problems. I have a product that's better than my competitors or is the best in industry. What we say is we have a product that can be tailored to your unique need, whether it's a staffing, compliance, business intelligence, or IT automation. We take our product and customize it for their specific need, trying to solve their problem. And if it works, then that leads us into another project, and so on.
Makes a lot of sense. For me, the consultative sales approach has always been, a big part of my success, mostly because I was able to have a network of solutions, right? When I'm able to sit down and talk to somebody, people are happy to tell you all about their problems, right? If you have a relationship with them, they'll tell you everything.
Mhm.
And so if you start, the sales process saying, okay, so what are you facing these days? What problems are you having? And when they start feeding you those problems, if you are, if you're well plugged into the industry, oh, well, you have this problem. Well, we should talk to X about that. Do you know my
Exactly.
friend over there? Let me introduce you. Or
Exactly.
Y, and or maybe here's an X and Y solution. Would you like an intro to both of them so that you can decide for yourself, what might be the best fit?
Exactly. And as I said, in the industry, although we have some solutions that we have developed internally for us
Hmm.
for providing to clients, we don't have everything, right?
Sure.
And you're right that having worked in collection industry for 21 years and legal for 15 years, I've gotten to know various vendors that I see at NCBA and RMA and other conferences. So when a client approaches us for a problem and we need to provide them solution, and if we don't have it, I do not hesitate to tell them who else they can go to.
Hmm.
Sometimes they happen to be our competitors, or are, even if they're not our competitors, they're in the same space that we are operating. So we don't hesitate to say, hey, there's an automation product or there's some other product that you can use that is being provided by somebody else. So we have guided several of our clients or our peers in the industry. I don't want to call them competitors. It sounds, then us versus them. What I want to call them is peers, right? We are all working together. We are all in this industry together. One thing happens, it affects all of us. So the goal is to make sure that our attorneys, our clients, our law firms, our debt buyers are very, very uh, efficient and compliant, because it takes one of us to mess it up for all of us.
Well, agreed, and that's why I've become, involved with the associations and doing things on a general industry level. I can tell you from, from my side of the house, when I am talking with a creditor about selling their debt, I generally don't go in and just say I want to buy your debt. I say you have some really interesting portfolios and accounts that we might be interested in someday. Can I help you make your debt more valuable so that I can pay you more for it?
Mhm.
And that approach really confuses people. When I first come out with those kinds of lines, I think it creates a little bit more confusion in the mind of the creditor because they're a little taken back and they have to think their way through, like, why? Why isn't he following the crowd? But it's, I find my success by going to places where nobody else is, right? I don't necessarily want to live in just a competitive environment. I have to find ways to differentiate myself. And I think the level of trust that you create through that process, right? Through the process of real consulting engagement, but like the trust that's developed by referring somebody to a third party and them having a good experience, I think is really powerful.
And what you just said, trust. So for me, the reason for not doing any hard sales pitch is one of those things where I want to make sure the client can trust me, right? If I provide them a service, a product, a consulting service, whatever that is, that it delivers, right? If it does not deliver, not only they lost trust in me, they lost trust in similar services provided by other people in the industry, right? So the idea is not, hey, it's not like, hey, oh, we don't trust Neeraj. They'll say, oh, we don't trust these types of consultants, or we don't trust these type of services. So for me, the main thing is, if I take a project, or even if I refer them to somebody else, I actually follow through with them to make sure that they are delivering it, because not only their name is at stake, even my reputation is at stake. And it's not about reputation, it's more about that having industry trust us consultants, whether it's you, me, or other people in the industry, to say, hey, we can reach out to these guys to help us do what we need to do.
Well, I think the challenge from a consulting perspective is that, historically, anyone who's unemployed calls themselves a consultant in this industry. I hate to say it that way, but it is.
True.
It's been proven time and time again.
True.
People can hate me for that statement, but it is what it is. And so, it makes it more difficult for us to differentiate ourselves when we provide a true consulting experience. Like, I spent years doing consulting with a number of people that had come from the banking side. I learned a lot through that process and was able to share a lot of information. But that was always the biggest struggle, was really differentiating yourself as someone who has the connections and experiences to add value to the process versus just calling myself a consultant, charging a fee and being paid for it. But I would say at this point in my career, most of the consulting that I do is walking between, different between the front door and the conference itself, or the hotel rooms and the conference, and just answering questions on the fly. Well, did you go check out, the KnovaOne booth? Did you talk to, oh, you need that? Did you talk to Neeraj? Or, hey, you need that? Did you talk to my friends over here? And to me, I feel like that's where that level of trust starts to come from, because I'm not pitching that product. Oh, well, here's the features and benefits of this particular product. I'm just saying, have you had a chance to take a look at that? I think that's something that should be part of your evaluation, or I don't think you should make a decision until you've talked to these three people.
Exactly. So it's so funny that you mentioned that. So when I left my last job and I started my consulting, I actually picked up a name called Mendiratta Consulting Company, MCC, MC Square. That's the nerd thing, right? So that's why my primary email is MC Square at LLC, dash LLC. So, but as soon as I updated that on LinkedIn, I got 3 job offers immediately saying, oh, I didn't know that you were unemployed. I said, I am not unemployed. I just started my consulting. And you're right. There's a taboo with that word consulting out there. And when I started that, I wasn't sure how long this is going to last. I'm like, maybe a year, 2 years, we'll see. This was 2012. I'm coming to 10 years now. So I've survived in a good way. And to your second part, the trust and referring, this is all about us working together. I am not just a member of NCBA and RMA, where we meet each other a lot. I am also a member of other organizations that are similar but in different industry. Actually, next week I'm headed to CLLA in Chicago. That's Commercial Law League. I'm a member of ALFN, which operates in the mortgage and foreclosure industry. I was on and off, but I'm kind of becoming active again. And they were actually at the conference. I'm seeking membership of other similar organizations that are pending as of now. So for me, the idea is that the problems exist similarly across. So I should be able to help them the way I help the NCBA and the attorneys on this side.
Well, financial services and account management, right? Like those broad umbrellas tend to encompass a lot of different things. And just because we're doing things on the backside, and to be successful as a debt collector, often you have to understand what's happening on the origination side, on the servicing side, the delinquency cycle, right? You have to understand really the full credit life cycle. Just because we come at the tail end means that we are subject to basically everything that's happened with that account since the moment that consumer decided it wanted to accept the extension of credit.
And that's true. So having worked on the mortgage side as well as credit card side, that is so true. We used to deal with accounts that are at the tail end of their life cycle, whether on foreclosure or collections. And suddenly we'll discover something happened to them and they were not in default or delinquency. And the blame will still fall onto our industry to not catch it. I'm like, how? This account was opened in 2007 and it was dealt with all these things in 2009, 10. Why am I getting dinged for this in 2015? Because, hey, they're at the tail end, right? They're at the collection, they're at the foreclosure, they're at the bankruptcy. You should have caught all those things. So what it does is makes our job challenging, but at the same time, we are the last defense, right? If things slip by us, then that's when we end up in a wrong side of the news, right? So this is why it's critical for our clients to make sure that they have done everything correctly from their standpoint to make sure that they're helping banks or their lenders to do what they need to do. I mean, people look at collections and foreclosure as a dirty industry and dirty word, but without our help, right, the lenders will run out of the business. And lenders need to do this work in order to be helping their customers, whether they are on default side or on a good side. It doesn't matter. This industry provides really strong services to the banking and even to the consumers. Consumers don't realize it immediately, but it is a very tricky industry. It's needed. It's to be. It needs to be compliant and better. So,
well, I think the reputation of receivables management or debt collection in general is why trust becomes such an important factor in the sales process, because the headline risk or the headlines that we've all read about our industry and know to be false, it really does change things when we're engaging in a conversation with whether it be a creditor, a debt buyer, an agency, law firm. It really doesn't even matter. But you're able to develop a much deeper level of trust when you're able to provide them with a consultative approach. And, hopefully at some point in the future, they need your service. But in the short term, don't forget about X, Y, and Z. You should talk to all of those people and make sure that you've evaluated your situation.
And I think that's where, we're coming back to your previous question about sales thing, right? It's not a sales pitch for me, but it is something that I take pride in. I've been in this industry 20 years, right? I know ins and outs of this industry. I know how it works. I know exactly what regulation is affecting us, what technology changes are coming to affect us. Mm-hmm. So when I reach out to client or clients reach out to me, it's not simply like, yeah, hey, I can provide you 10 staff or I can automate this for you. It's more about, hey, I can do it in a way that it does not put you at risk. Mm-hmm. It does not make you less compliant. It actually makes you more compliant. You can actually step out and tell your clients, their own clients, that, hey, we are using KnovaOne or ArmGuard, but that's going to help us do this better. So that way, when we reach out to our clients, it's not about that we can do it. It's about we can do it much more efficiently and compliant way. So, and that comes from my own background in the industry. Mm-hmm. It's not that one day I woke up and said like, hey, I'm going to help collection law firms or default law firms. So there's a deep experience in the industry that I can bring to the table.
Completely understood. And I think it's a great approach. Clearly, it's something that's been near to dear to me for a long time and kind of learned through the years, the developing trust and by providing those solutions and not just your own solutions tends to be a great way to break into new areas. But Neeraj, I really appreciate you coming on today and having a chat with me. I've been waiting to have you on Receivables Roundtable for some time, and I'm glad we finally got to do it and the world gets to hear the kinds of conversations that you and I are having in the corner at a conference.
Yeah. And, thank you for inviting me to your roundtable, and hopefully that we can meet in person rather than virtually or at some conference far away from our South Florida. So we're going to meet more here often, man.
I greatly appreciate it. I agree wholeheartedly. For anybody that's watching, if you have additional questions that you'd like to ask Neeraj or myself, feel free to leave them in the comments below. We'll be responding to comments both on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you have any additional topics that you'd like to see us discuss, you can leave those in the comments as well. And Neeraj and I'd be happy to do another episode in the near future to answer those questions. But in the short term, Neeraj, thank you so much for participating, and I'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Adam.